Fantastic. Well, I hope you're all having a lovely day so far. So, my name is Bianca. I'm the digital content producer at Student Edge. And in my free time as well, I'm also a gaming and pop culture content creator, working across a whole bunch of social media platforms. I also create content for gaming brands, and I've published game reviews for publications like Well Played and Game on Australia. And I will be your host for our virtual event today, Understand the Assignment, which is all about giving you the tips and tricks to help you land a job. So just some general housekeeping before we get started. We'd love to get your thoughts throughout this virtual event. So please use those reaction buttons to let us know what you're feeling. Type in any questions into the Q&A section of the chat if you have any. So we'll be monitoring the chat and we'll read out any comments when we can as well. So what's in store for today? So today we've got a really exciting lineup. So to kick off our virtual event, I'll be welcoming Lois, our talent recruitment expert, who will be answering all of your burning job hunt questions. So if you have any of those questions, feel free to type them into the Q&A section of the chat, and we'll get to as many as we can after we've answered our first round of questions with her. So next up, I'll be handing it over to Angelo, who will be guiding you through how to make your resume pop using our Student Edge Passport tool. So if you want to follow along with him, make sure you log in or sign up for free to the Student Edge website and have your passport section ready to go, so you can follow along. And Angelo is also going to show you how to make the process of creating a cover letter easier than ever before with our new best friend, ChatGPT. So get ready for that, because that is really, really cool. I'll definitely be using it. And also, you will be rewarded for attending today as well. So if you complete your Student Edge Passport and resume to 70% or more, you stay for the duration of the webinar, you'll get 1,000 Edge credits, which is $10. So this can be cashed out as a gift card, or you can continue to keep earning via Student Edge surveys on our website, and then you can take it out via PayPal when it hits $30. So before we get into it, I'll give you a brief intro to Student Edge if you don't know about us already. So we're Australia's favourite student membership with 1.3 million members all around the country and the world. So at Student Edge, we're all about making student life easier, and we do that by helping you save money on everyday items like bubble tea, movie tickets, and bigger items like your next Apple device and everything in between. We also have articles and video content on our website, as well as a jobs board. We've got some awesome competitions where we give away things like iPads, Visa gift cards, movie tickets, and more. We also have job tools like the Student Edge Passport that Angelo will be showing you shortly. And the Student Edge membership is free, and you can access everything online through our website at studentedge.org, or it's also available through our Student Edge app, which is super handy. So now I'll invite Lois to join me. So Lois has more than 15 years of experience in senior and executive human resources roles across government, home care, disability services, and more. She has a Master of HR Management, a Bachelor and Honours degree in Psychology, and a Strategic Management certificate from Harvard. She also has her own business, Life at Work, where she helps organizations find great talent. So it's safe to say she's the perfect person to give all of you some insider tips on how to get that job. Welcome, Lois.
Thanks so much, Bianca. Thanks for having me today. It's really lovely to be here and be a part of this.
No, it's so great to have you. So I have a list of job-related questions from our members that we'd love to get your expert advice on. So my first question for you are, what are some of the common traits that employers look for in young people?
Definitely. So it's probably not much of a surprise, but a lot of employers really like hiring young people because they bring a great deal of energy to the workplace. Often they're really keen to develop and to learn new skills, so they're moldable, which is great. And personally, you know, a lot of employers and people like myself find watching young people start their career and then progress is really a wonderful thing to watch. So another attractor. When I look at employers and what they're typically looking at to see in young people, there's a couple of things that stand out. So reliability is one of those important things. So punctuality, commitment to doing the things that they say that they'll do, meeting deadlines, those types of things. And professionalism is another important one. So behaviour, conduct, how you present yourself to work, and those types of things. A willingness and an eagerness to learn is also really important. You want to see that people are willing to put time and effort into learning, into asking questions, into developing their skills. And finally, too, a balance of confidence. So we want people to be not too sure or too stubborn on certain things, but confident enough to try things. Okay to fail, okay to learn from the experience. So a little bit of a balance there, which takes a bit of practice, but it's something that people typically look for with younger employees.
Awesome. So be your own hype person, be proactive. I guess I think it's super important. It's quite daunting, I think, when you're especially going for your first job as well, kind of not knowing what to expect in that first job interview. It's scary. It's so scary. So
yeah,
definitely what you said, have confidence in yourself, I think is fantastic. So my second question for you as well are, what are some of the most common interview questions that all candidates should prepare for? And are there any that you commonly see people stumbling on?
This is a great question. So most of the questions that you'll come across in an interview will be situational. So they'll normally be looking for an example of a time when you've dealt with something in particular. It might be conflict management. It might be, a challenging customer, for example. And sometimes if you haven't had experience, it can be a little bit challenging to come up with those examples. But even if you're relating them to your general life, that's completely fine. So think in advance around some of the things you might be asked. I'll give you a bit of a snapshot of what you might come across. So typical topics that you'll see in most interviews are, firstly, what do you know about the company? So this is the best way to know if someone's actually researched the organisation. Doesn't need to be perfect. They will fill the gaps for you. But, at least being able to say, look, I've been on your website and my understanding is that you do these things is a really good start. I have sat in many interviews where the person that you're interviewing says, "Oh, I've got no idea." Really, so a great
that must be mortifying.
Absolutely, yeah. So look, it's just a good way to show that you've done a little bit of research and you actually are interested in the role. So it's a good start. Another question that you would expect to get is what interested you in this role. So you don't need to go on for ages about it, but at least be prepared to answer. What are the things that stood out for you when you read that job ad and when you read about the company?
And Lois, I was going to say, I'm sure you'd agree with me as well. If you're passionate about that role and stuff like that, that would obviously come across really well in an interview too.
Absolutely. It's your perfect opportunity to show them why you're keen for the role. And then as you progress through the interview, you'll have an opportunity to demonstrate why you're a good fit for the role as well. So that passion is so important, and being able to demonstrate that at that point is great. It's wonderful to see that if you're interviewing. So yes, definitely agree. Another question that you will almost always get is, tell me a bit about yourself. So sometimes it's hard to talk about, ourselves, but I would prepare for that question. Don't tell them your whole life story. You want it to be succinct. A couple of minutes is fine. But think about some of the things that you can tell them around, your previous employment, if you've got any, perhaps your schooling and education, just a couple of things about yourself. You're welcome to talk about hobbies and things like that too. Completely fine. Other topics, so you'll see, I've already mentioned conflict resolution. That's a pretty common one. Tell me about a time when you've had conflict with someone and how you've resolved it. Pretty normal. You might get questions about time management. So tell me about how you manage priorities and how you meet deadlines. So think about how you might be able to answer that question. I get questions sometimes in interviews around a time in your life that you're really proud of, which I like because, it gives a good example of the person and some of the things that, really make them excited or things that they're really passionate about.
And I would say as well, Lois, in terms of things that you're proud of, I mean, obviously you could probably keep in mind maybe one or two achievements from school, or it could be extracurricular stuff. But would you even go as far to say things that you're proud of in terms of a personal, in terms of values and stuff like that too?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, look, I really believe in these particular things, and I hold those values really strong. And I'm proud of when I've demonstrated them in my life. Absolutely. completely fine. It can be whatever you want it to be. So as long as you've thought about it in advance, you'll have something that you can say to that question. So definitely. Other questions might be, why are you leaving your current role? Sometimes that comes up. If you've had a really bad experience in a previous organisation, you really hate it and you just want to get out, try not to get too negative, in your interview. Keep it kind of high level. Even just saying, look, I'm really ready for a new challenge is completely fine. It's a nice way to answer that. So
yeah, it's probably better not to talk badly of your last position, and no matter
Absolutely.
how icky that might have been. So taking it on that more of a positive spin is probably a good way to approach it then.
That's right. Absolutely. Yeah, if you can. So a question that I see people stumble on, and this is a useful one, I think, to talk about, is what are your weaknesses? So it's a really tricky question to answer. It often comes after what are your strengths, which again can be a little challenging, but most people can come up with a few things that they are really good at, or they think that they're really good at, which is positive. With the question, what are your weaknesses? It's you want to. I know everyone feels this way, but you want to come across like you've answered the question, but you've also, you're not too kind of hopeless, right? So you try to find that balance. A good way of tackling this question is to think about a weakness or a gap that you've had and how you've overcome it. So, for example, you might say, I used to find it really challenging juggling multiple deadlines. But what I've done is I've implemented this system, and I'm using an app currently. I'm using a particular process or diaries or whatever it might be, and I found it so much more manageable now to manage deadlines. And I'm really proud of what I've done to overcome that. Even if you're not all the way there, it just shows that you've got an ability to reflect on things that perhaps maybe you're not great at, and then the things you've put in place to work towards overcoming that. So that's something that I would just, I guess, recommend in terms of answering that question. Makes it much easier to answer.
Yeah, for sure. And, I think sometimes for some people as well, on the fly, it might be easier to think about like your weaknesses than it is just strengths. So I think in response to that as well, like even talking about your strengths, I'm sure you would agree, like don't be afraid to back yourself up and be like, I'm actually really good at this and I'm good at this as well. Like, be your biggest, I think, hype person in that interview too. Like, don't sell yourself short.
Yeah, I agree. And you know what? No one's perfect, right? So your interview knows that nobody's perfect. So if you've got an understanding of the things you do really well and the things that perhaps, you're not as strong at, that's okay, Also with that question, sometimes you're looking at the person's fit with the rest of the team. So you might have other people that are really good at that thing that you're not maybe as good at, and it works out really well because the rest of your team helps to buffer that. So, yeah.
Fantastic. All right. Well, the next question is, and it sounds like a simple one, but I'm hoping you can elaborate for us. What's the best way we can make our resume stand out?
So it'd probably surprise you the number of CVs that I see on a daily basis that are still done, in Word. They're just a bunch of kind of dot points, no color, no style to them. They're really plain. So the simplest way that you can make your CV stand out is actually just to put a little bit more effort into it. So I would always recommend doing your CV in Canva, or alternatively, if you're going to use Word, try and use a template. You can search for templates and choose something that actually just visually looks a little bit more interesting. I'd also work to make sure that it's readable. So you don't want to cram too much information onto the page. The last thing you want is your person that's screening to open the CV and then just be overwhelmed with how much information is on there. So yeah, I would also recommend putting the things that you want them to read on the first page. So whether that is highlighting particular experience that you've had, particular education, put those things first. And you can also bold some of your keywords. So if there are words that are in the job ad and skills and requirements that are listed, bolding those things in your CV can help the person that's screening visually to make that comparison and to understand that, you're actually a good fit for this particular role. Let me put you forward to the next stage. So those things are just little tips. But
that's really clever. I didn't even think of bolding those keywords. That's that's very, very smart. And we're going to be looking at more about resume building and stuff later on with Angelo as well, which is really cool.
Amazing.
Now, The next question for you is, are there any skills that I should be developing or we should be developing as students now to make us more desirable to employers?
This is a challenging question to answer because it's always going to depend on the job type. So the skills that you require as an engineer, for example, are different to the skills that you would require as a HR professional. So what I would do here is, if there's a particular profession, a particular role that you have in mind, I would focus on developing the skills that are related to that role. So just say, for example, I want to work in retail, but I know that I don't have any sales skills built yet. I would take an opportunity to learn about this. So being able to demonstrate that, actually, I haven't had experience in this space, but what I've done is I've gone and read a whole bunch of things. I've watched some YouTube videos on how to sell, those types of things I think are really useful to be able to demonstrate. And again, indicates to your employer that you're willing to learn, you're happy to take on, things that you actually don't know how to do and figure out how to do them. So that's what I would recommend there.
Perfect. Now, what about if we haven't had any work experience? Like, how can we best sell ourselves to like future employers?
It's always challenging. We all start somewhere, and getting your first job is, it can feel really daunting. You will get that first job eventually. It will happen. But what I would do in terms of creating your CV and thinking about the things that you can sell and demonstrate for yourself, I would think about, what are the things that I know that I'm really strong at? So I might have been involved in team sports. I might be part of a music group, dance group, those types of things. I might have achieved particular things at school. I might have received academic awards. You might have been part of programs as part of your education that have been very interesting. So I would use those types of things to create a list of things that you're good at. And then also thinking about your general strengths. So if I'm a great team player, or I'm really friendly, or I'm hardworking, putting those things on your CV are great because they're a reflection of you and can help to show, who you are and what makes you you. The other thing I would say on this is trying to get some experience where you can is also really useful. So work experience is obviously a great way to do this. You can volunteer, you could ask a business that you know, or maybe a family friend that runs a business, see if you can do a little bit of volunteering or work experience with them. Because I think that this all adds a lot of value. It shows that you're willing to go out and to try new things and, to get some experience, even if it's not necessarily paid. And you never know. I've seen plenty of people do a work experience placement and then get a job out of it, which is a wonderful way to get your first job. So, you've got nothing to lose, I think, when you're going out and doing some work experience or volunteering. So those are the things I would say.
That's fantastic. I think, getting proactive, getting involved in stuff around school or in the community are really good ways to, dress up that resume even a little bit more, especially when it comes to things like volunteering and stuff. And obviously, when we're students and we're like a full-time student, Monday to Friday as well, I'm sure there's plenty of opportunities over the weekend or after school and late nights and stuff. We can get involved with stuff there. So, really good to know. Now, here's a question that people, I would assume, maybe are probably too nervous to do and maybe don't know where to start. But what questions should I ask an employer in an interview?
I love this question. I think it's really great. So it's really important to have some questions put together, right, when you go into an interview. And what you're doing by coming in with a list of questions is you're demonstrating that you put some time and thought into things that you want to know about the role, things that you want to know about the business. So it just kind of indicates, a level of commitment and interest in the role. So I would write down some questions before I go in. Take them with you, take your notebook or whatever, and think about what you might like to know. So they might be very logistical questions about the role. So tell me more about the team, tell me about your typical customers, tell me a little bit about, the day in the life of, these types of employees. Those questions are really good to ask, and they will give you more information too around the role, which is very useful. I love the question, and it's just a little tip, but I love the question, tell me about your leadership style. So you're obviously asking that to the person that you're going to be working for, and it's a great opportunity to see them reflect on that to get a bit of insight around how they like to lead their people, and also for you to know whether you're going to resonate with that as well. So that's what I would do, I guess, there. One of the things I'd also say on that is if you write your questions down and then you get to the end of the interview and they've answered them all, that's okay. But it's still good to refer to the fact that you had those questions. So I would be saying, oh, I wanted to, if when they say, have you got any questions, you're saying in return, I actually wanted to ask you about these particular things, but you've answered those in the course of the interview. Thank you so much for that. And then it's perfect. You've demonstrated you had the questions have been asked, everybody wins. So
again, that proactiveness, we love to see it. We love to see it. All right, I have another question that might give people a bit of the ick. It just might make them squirm at the thought of asking this. But do you have any tips on how to navigate a salary negotiation?
Yeah, I do. And
just saying that, I'm like,
yeah. I do. And I think it's so important, right? We need to be able to talk about money. We need to be able to talk about our wages. If we can't do that, then it's very easy to hold ourselves back, right? So, and I always say to people, the worst thing that can happen is you ask for a pay increase or you ask for your salary to be reviewed, and then you just don't get a pay increase because they can't give it to you, right? So it's the very worst thing that happens. So you might as well ask the question if you think that you're, deserving of a pay increase. So when I'm entering into those conversations, I would always suggest to people, make sure you've done some prep work. So understand what similar roles in the market are attracting in terms of wage. Get onto, there's lots of websites, PayScale, Indeed will tell you, Seek will tell you, get a bit of an idea around what that role is paying. I'd also build a list of things that you've done really well. So projects you've completed to a high standard, where you've added value in the company, and you're bringing that along with you to the conversation. Making a time with your manager is useful. So letting them know, I'd like to sit down and discuss my salary with you. Can we make a time? Helps for it not to be a surprise, helps for them to know what they're entering into, make sure they have the time, you're not catching them in the hallway by surprise. So,
just totally off guard.
Yeah, absolutely. So, no one likes a surprise, I think, and it's an important conversation, and your manager will want to know that they're actually entering into it respectfully as well. On the flip side, being respectful as well of your manager and of their position is useful. So sometimes wages are actually outside of that manager's control. So you might find you have the conversation, but the budget sits at a higher level. Still useful to have. There's things that manager can do to push, that request forward. But, just be aware of that. It's not always within their control. Really important is, from my perspective, is not bringing irrelevant things into the conversation. So, for example, I need a pay increase because I've just bought a new car, or I've got a car now, or I just need to earn more money because my rent's gone up. Yes, these are valid things, and they are reasons that drive us wanting to earn more money. But it's not a reason for an employer to give you a pay increase. So keep it factual, keep it related to things that you can demonstrate around market rates, your own performance. Yeah, that's what I would do better.
Yeah. So, again, just vouch for yourself in those ways that you mentioned there.
Absolutely.
All about hyping yourself up. I love it.
That's it. And just one more thing on that, if you don't mind. So your manager is often, they don't think about your pay every day. So sometimes, you're thinking about, my manager should have recognized that I should have a pay increase by now. It's probably the furthest thing from their mind. It pops up from time to time, maybe when they're doing, a review of wages and things, but often it's not at the forefront for them. So raising it with them is great. It's a good thing to do.
You don't ask, you don't know.
Correct.
So another one, which is something a lot of people might feel, I guess, we've all kind of been through if we've started looking for jobs and things like that, is like, how do you deal with rejection or feedback from employers? Like, where do we kind of go from there if we do get that no?
It's really hard. And, I see this at every level. I see this with new, young job seekers. I see it at, people going for CEO roles, right? So there is always a level of sadness, I guess, if you don't get the role that, you really were hoping to get. And it can feel a little bit challenging and a bit yucky. So I would use it as an opportunity to improve, to upskill, to look at where your gaps are and to try to fill those gaps. It's completely fine if you've been through an interview process with a person to reach out and say, look, I was really disappointed that I didn't get the role. I was so excited about it, but I understand and I respect your decision. If you could let me know if there's anything that I could do to improve my application for further future jobs, I would really appreciate your feedback. And most people, if they have engaged you in that process, you've built a bit of rapport with them, most people are going to come back to you and give you a little bit of feedback. So nothing wrong with asking. And you don't know, you can't see the other candidates. You don't know who was in the pool. There might have just been someone that was a little bit more experienced than you. And if they can tell you that and then at least you know what the difference was. So it's completely fine to ask, and try not to take it too personally and move on.
And
sometimes
it's also
not the job for you.
It's also completely normal to not get a yes for every job too, and to know that that's okay. For sure. So look, I'm just going to have a quick look at the chat and read out any questions we might have. We do have one here from Chris. It says, is it okay, because I think you mentioned this before, is it okay to bring a notebook into the interview so there's no pressure to remember, like say you're talking about asking your employer questions, like is it good to bring in a notebook for those kind of things? Like, is that okay?
Totally. Yeah, totally fine. Yeah, I'm fine with that. It just shows you've you put thought into what you're answering. And if it helps you and it gives you some little prompting kind of notes as you're working through, then that's fine. Totally fine. Wouldn't have an issue with that at all.
Actually, I have a really random question for you as well. And I don't know if it's like a myth, but it was something that I was told, and I don't know if it still applies, especially now. Bringing in a resume physically versus online, is there any like benefits, or like, I guess, like online versus in person? Like, what's your stance on that?
I want to say I have hired a person once, and they actually didn't bring the CV in online in person, but I'll talk to that as well. I hired a person once who the job was advertised, and they actually made the time to call me and have a chat about the job. And so in doing so, they sold themselves to me. I understood they were a good fit. I might not have actually looked at their CV and pulled them out of the bunch compared to anybody else, but then I pushed them through the interview process, and actually they were the successful candidate. So yes, that's extra effort calling. It's the same thing, bringing your CV in. If you have an opportunity to bring your CV in and actually speak to the person who, is hiring for the role, and that's sometimes the tricky bit to do. But if you can bring it in and ask to speak to the person, say, hey, just want to drop my CV in, that lovely to meet you, thanks very much. Don't take up too much of their time. Yeah, that's great. I think it helps you stand out. Anything like that, we can stand out from the crowd, is a great thing.
Awesome. Cool. Good to know. If anyone else has any questions for Lois, we are going to wrap up this segment very, very shortly. But if you think of anything after the webinar that you might want to ask us, feel free to DM us on Instagram. We're at student_edge. But Lois, before we let you go, we're just going to end out this segment with some rapid fire questions. So I'm going to give you a short question, and I want you to try and answer it in 3 words or less. Okay? Are you ready to go?
I'll try.
All right. Great. So, how many pages should my resume be?
Got a little echo there. That's all right.
Oh, yeah, a little bit. Okay. Yeah. How many pages should my resume be?
2 to 4, not 10.
2 to 4, not 10.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. No, I'll take that. Do I need to customize my cover letter for every job?
Yes. Please do this.
Yes. On your resume or cover letter, can you say references on request?
Completely fine. Yeah, I'd expect that.
Should I use a photo on my resume or cover letter?
Recommend it. I don't recommend it. And
no?
I'll just go on a little bit on that.
It's okay. You can go over your 3-word answers.
It gives the person reading the CV an opportunity to judge you on something that's not related to your skills of experience. I just don't see the point.
That's really good. That's fair. That's fair. Now, strangest, you probably could do this maybe in 3 words or less, otherwise I'd be super impressed. I've got 2 more questions for you. Strangest thing you've ever seen on a cover letter?
Flashing graphics, which seems unnecessary, and then sometimes inappropriate pictures that are, I don't know, they're just a bit inappropriate.
Okay.
Not really bad, just not great for a CV or a cover letter.
All right.
Yeah.
to know. What about your best candidate success story?
Yeah, I can't answer this in two to 3 words. But
no, that's fair. We'll let you off the hook.
I have seen wonderful examples of people who, have had really challenging backgrounds or really difficult experiences, and they've landed a job and they've worked really hard and done really well, and they've just flown. Their career has been amazing. So that's been wonderful. And from my perspective, my very favorite candidate success stories are when I've hired a graduate and then I've watched them grow and develop, and then they've ended up in some high-flying executive career, and it's been an absolute joy to watch that person go from graduate through to, amazing career. It's a beautiful journey to watch.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you, Lois. This whole segment has been super, super insightful, and I think we all learned a lot. So thank you so much for taking the time to join us today.
No problem. Thank you for having me. It was lovely to be here.
Awesome. Fantastic. All right, guys. So next up, we have Angelo, who will be taking you through how to make your resume pop using our Student Edge Passport tool, followed by how to create a cover letter using AI. So now's the time to jump onto the Student Edge website if you haven't already, if you'd like to follow along with him. Angelo is a passionate brand ambassador for Student Edge. He's studying marketing and HR management at the University of Western Australia, and he also volunteers for Aspire and Venture UWA. He loves working with students and spreading the word about the value of higher education. And let's take it over to you, Angelo.
Well, thank you for the intro, Bianca. So now I'm going to help you all glow up your resume by really focusing on your values, your personal qualities, and a bit more. All right, so again, this is very interactive, so I will just share my screen so you guys can follow along. All right, great. So here's my beautiful screen. So if you haven't signed up to Student Edge already, you can do so by clicking the join button at the top right-hand corner, and you just follow the very simple steps of signing up. But if you have signed up, all you have to do is press log in and log in. But to get into the Student Edge Passport section, you just click on your user menu and you click into My Passport. Now, quick reminder, if you complete your passport to 70% or higher and you stay until the end of our webinar today, you'll score 1,000 Edge credits, which is equivalent to $10. So free money. All right, so in this short session, I am going to call out some key areas to really make your resume pop. So the most important bit of a resume is your personal summary. So this is really important because your future employees will basically decide if they want to proceed with your application based off this really small section. So I cannot emphasize this enough. It's important to really get this right and down pat. So a good formula to follow is you want to include your passions, your own experiences, qualifications, key skills, your strengths, and your other personal qualities. So in the example of Chantel James here, we can see that her passions are in baking and cooking. Her experiences are she's worked in bakeries for the past 2 years, and she has a Cert 1 in baking. So that's her qualification there. Her key skills are in customer service and in teamwork. And her strengths and her other personal qualities is that she's reliable and she's really motivated. So hopefully that helps you think about the structure of your own personal summary. So I want to see how that went. So give me like a quick heart react if you think that was quite useful. Okay, I see that. Great, cute. All right, now we'll move on to the next section. So when I was first discussing the personal summary, I touched on the importance of your skills and your passions. So more often than not, these come from your hobbies, your interests, while your strengths really come from your own personal qualities. So if you have any of those that come to mind now, so feel free to add those hobbies and interests in this little box here by clicking on the pencil icon and just typing them in. All right, perfect. So next is another important section, which is focusing on values. So values are ideas or beliefs that we all have. So they help you determine what is right and wrong and what things matter to you the most. So one of the things you could value is kindness, right? So valuing kindness means, showing love and care to others and yourself through your actions. In the example of Chantel here, she values honesty, community, healthy living, and creativity. So, those values could be something that, you find valuable as well. So if you find those values valuable, you can add them in your values section here, or any other things that values you think of during this time. There's also some other examples down here. All right, hot tip. We actually have a competition that we're releasing very shortly, where if you reveal 4 more values in your passport and then you explain to us in 25 words or less, like why you've chosen those values, you'll actually go in a draw to win a $100 Visa gift card. So you can actually get a head start of, in that competition by doing this section now. So yeah, get to it. Now we have a pretty sort of important section as well. We have the education and work history. So in the education history, you can add your past education, whether that may be high school or your TAFE or like university, or your current or previous work in this section here. Now, as students, we also understand that aspiring to do something big is really important. So we actually have aspiration sections in here, so you can keep track of those like dreams. So for Chantel, for example, they want to study at Curtin University one day at the Bachelor of Science. For the like work aspirations, one day they want to be a nutritionist at Woolworths, or they could also love to be an apprentice baker at Baker's Delight. So other important sections I will go through now is qualifications. So qualifications where you add your certificates, like if you have your first aid, any TAFE for uni qualifications, or if you have your bronze medallion or working with children's check, that all goes in this little section here. So for example, Chantel, she's got her first aid, so she's gonna put that in there. Awards are something really important to have. They're really good to have too, actually, because it makes you stand out in front of your employers. So you could have gotten an award, while you're at school, while you're playing sports or any other extra co-curricular activity. So for Chantel, she won Employee of the Month. Good job to her at McDonald's in 2020. And another section is your referees. Now, referees are the people who will support the claims of your resume. So they're the people who like basically verify, confirm that whatever you put in your resume is like actually true. So if you haven't had a job yet, a good sort of people to ask would be your teacher at school, your university tutor, or maybe if you've been volunteering at a sporting club recently, you could ask your like sporting club supervisor. So yeah, if you haven't had any experience yet, again, that's perfectly fine. We have these sections here called the extracurricular experiences and volunteering history. Now, these sections are also quite important because it shows to employers that you've been proactive with your free time. Again, that word proactive there. It's really important to show that because, in your free time, you could show the employers that you've been giving back to society through volunteering. So for Chantel's example, she's been volunteering at TEDx in Kings Park. And she's also been volunteering at Camden Digital Arts and Cultural Center. Not only that, but listing your extracurricular activities, experiences also shows that you've been like proactively wanting to learn in your free time. So being an AFL coach, you could also put that in there. So that's what Chantel's example is. And being the president of the Mandarin Language Club. Pretty cool. Micro credentials are the short courses that really empower you to gain like new skills in a short amount of time. So that's shorter than we're compared to like getting a uni degree or a TAFE certificate. So you can get micro credentials here at Student Edge. We offer some like learning courses, which really also bolster the skills that you gain and really make your resume pop. All right. Finally, your portfolio. So your portfolio is where you put all your supporting materials in one spot. So that's your uni qualifications, your cover letter, your preferences, and like any awards. So Chantel, again, oh, sorry, she had a cert too in baking. So she put that certificate in here. And since she loves art, she put all of her beautiful drawings and artsy stuff in her little portfolio there. So once you filled out your Student Edge passport up to 70% or more, you can see that percentage up here, you can press this cute little icon called Preview as Resume, and like it's literally magic. So we take all the hard work out of making like the structure of a resume, and we put all that in this neat little PDF document, which you can like export or print out. So we also understand that students, we love to be, we're all unique and individualized. So there's different styles here. So you got like basic, if you want something more straightforward, or if you're like really like creative, you want something that like pops. You've also got this color pop sort of style here as well. So I'll pause for any questions before moving on how we can use ChatGPT to write a cover letter. So if you have any questions, feel free to jot that down in the comment section now. Yep, okay, all good. So we're gonna get to the very exciting part, ChatGPT. All right, gonna share my screen back again. So as Lois, our talent recruitment expert, mentioned, so our cover letter needs to be like customized to every job we apply for, which is like, it sounds like a hassle, like I get it. But we're here to show you how we can like make it less like hassly. I don't know if that's the word, like hassle is, with ChatGPT. So I have grabbed a job description from the Student Edge jobs board. So this is the swim school instructor for Jump Swim Schools. So the description here, oh, sorry, my screen's not showing. Okay, perfect. Sorry, I jumped the gun there for a bit. So yeah, so I went to the Student Edge jobs board, Student Edge jobs board to get the description of the job I could potentially apply for. And I also have a copy of my resume. Just for the sake of the presentation, I've put them all in this beautiful one document. The importance of today is using this prompt here called please help me craft a persuasive cover letter using this job description and my resume. ChatGPT is very smart, but it's also very good to prompt it correctly and be very specific on how you want it to like produce your cover letter. So we want it to be persuasive. So that's the word there. Additionally, we want to provide a bit of context for ChatGPT. So having things like, job description. So it knows that this is a job description and this is my resume, which shows that at the bottom here, that's all those text is like my job, my resume. So I will copy that and I will literally just paste it in ChatGPT and just press enter. And it's going to do its magic. Where is it? Let's go scroll. All right, so now it is basically doing its thing. Now, while it's doing its thing, you can see here that ChatGPT has been smart enough to leave a couple of boxes here for us. So these boxes is what we're going to have to fill out once it's done doing its thing, which it has. So we'll press this little copy icon at the top here and paste it in either a Word document or in Canva for us to edit. So we're going to paste it here. And all you have to do is basically fill out the boxes. So you put your name, your address, so on and so forth. But another really important thing is ChatGPT doesn't know who you are. It doesn't know how you speak. It doesn't know your personality. So it's still really important to read through each paragraph and change the wording of certain sentences so it like sounds like you've written it and your personalities in the cover letter. So that's basically all you have to do when you're using ChatGPT to make a cover letter. Don't forget to tweak it to make it sound like you, so with your tone of voice. And you can easily do this for any job you apply for. So it takes the hassle out of doing cover letters. But thank you for listening. I hope you guys got something out of this, and I'm going to hand it over back to Bianca to finish up the session.
Fantastic. Thanks, Angelo. Now we're coming to the end of the virtual event now, but before I close off, just want to thank you all for staying on to the end. And for those who are still here, you're now one step closer to earning your 1000 Edge credits. So all you need to do after the virtual event is to sign up to Student Edge if you haven't already to become a free member, which also means you'll get a whole heap of free stuff like access to exclusive deals, competitions and surveys, and finish your passport, which you started with Angelo, to 70% or higher. So once you've done that, we'll check and you'll get your Edge credits in your account within 7 days. So really, really cool. And as Angelo mentioned as well, tomorrow we are also launching a passport competition. So you'll get rewarded for filling in your aspirations, those values we've been talking about, your skills. So if your passport is already 70% or higher after this session, you can enter the 3 weekly comps to go into the running to win a $100 Visa gift card each week and be entered into the grand prize to win a $250 Visa gift card. This means you can win up to $550. The details are on the screen, and we'll add a link to the chat as well. And if you're not already, make sure you're following us on Insta, TikTok, and YouTube to stay up to date with the latest from us. So our latest content at the moment includes first reactions to Taylor Swift's Eras Tour movie, our first impressions on the Crew Motorfest game, and an interview with the star of Ruby Gilman Teenage Kraken and All the Boys I Loved Before, Lana Condor. So really cool stuff for you guys to check out. And of course, if you're looking for more job tips and study hacks, you can find us all on our website. It's studentedge.org. So we've covered a lot in our session, and that's a wrap. So we've had some top tips for interviewing and how to land a job from our talent recruitment expert, Lois. We've had a live demo and how to create a resume using the Student Edge Passport. Angelo also showed us a quick way to create a cover letter using AI. And then we've also shown you how you can get rewarded for coming to attend today and upskilling. So I hope you're all feeling even just a little bit more prepared for entering the working world. As we said as well, if you have any questions or want to give us any feedback on this webinar, feel free to DM us on Instagram, which is student_edge. And thank you guys so much for coming, and enjoy the rest of your day.